Hello everyone, this is Suresh from Azure ADB. Today our topic is how to use datetime delta. So what is the main function of this time delta is we used to represent duration, that is difference between two dates or times. So it mainly we used to manipulate the date. So time delta function represents it present under datetime library, which is generally used for calculating differences in dates. So that means if you see here, our main module is datetime. So this one we usually import, like import datetime. So this is module. Under this, we have datetime, time delta, date and time. So if you want to access time delta, first you have to import datetime, this datetime, then you have to access time delta. So datetime dot time delta, and later you can define this inside parameters. So here I mentioned days equal to 1. So but as per syntax, see you can access this many elements like datetime dot time delta. So inside you can write weeks, days, hours, minutes, seconds, microseconds, and milliseconds. So that is the meaning. Time delta function is represented under datetime library. So if you want to call time delta, first you have to import datetime, that is this one module, datetime module. Later from datetime module, you have to call this function, this class, time delta class. Then you have to mention this method. Okay, so method is time delta inside that. So either you can mention this one, either of these things. So if you see parameters one by one, first one is days. Okay, so value in days to be passed. So the all these no, it is an optional parameter. So how you can pass it? So days you can mention it as time delta. So inside that you can mention it days equal to 1. And similarly for seconds, seconds equal to 1. So this value can be anyone. So I given here 1. Okay. So microseconds equal to 1, milliseconds equal to 1, minutes equal to 1, hours equal to 1, weeks equal to 1. So like this, you can give any value as per your requirements. So similar way, I defined here these parameters. So here, if you see days, no, so this whatever you given here, 1 days equal to 1, this can be either positive or integer number, positive or negative uh, integer number. So similar way for all seconds, microseconds, minutes, hours, weeks. So all you can enter either positive or negative values. Okay, so I'll share this notebook. You can go through these parameters. Okay, so you'll get more understanding. So main syntax is, so as we discussed already, first we need to import datetime. From datetime, we are calling time delta class, and inside that we are mentioning this one days, that is method. So I given days equal to 10. So this is one way you can call it, or otherwise you can call from datetime import datetime time delta. So if you're importing like this, then here you can simply write time delta and inside that days equal to 5. So no need to write again datetime dot. Okay. So in our notebook, so I will be following either this method or this method. Okay, so first what we'll see is, so first I want to print, I want to display time delta for 10 days and 1 hour. Okay, so for that what I'm doing, first import datetime. So in that datetime dot time delta, so inside that I'm mentioning days equal to 10 and seconds is 3600. If you print this interval, what you will get is 10 days and So here we mentioned 3600 seconds. So if you convert to hours, it will come uh, 1 hour. Okay, so you can convert it to uh, seconds to hours. So next, this is one way. So as per this syntax, this is one way that I explained here. And second one is this method. So now we'll see how to do this one. So I'm calling from datetime, import datetime comma time delta. So here what I'm trying to do is I'm creating time delta object representing 5 days. So time delta, and I'm defining days equal to 5. Then I'm printing this variable, I'm getting 5 days. So since I mentioned day only days, it printing 5 days, and remaining time it printing default zeros, all zeros. Okay, so next, what we'll do is, so here I mentioned as of now only days and seconds. Now we'll take three parameters. So one is week one, week equal to one, and days three, hours one. If I do this conversion, time delta, what it gives is it giving 10 days and 1 hour. So how it calculating is weeks is number of weeks equal to 1. That means 7 days. So 7 days plus 3 total 10 days and 1 hour. Okay. So like that it manipulating this date time. Next, we'll see what is the main difference between datetime.date.today and datetime.datetime.today. Okay, so normally we'll use this one, datetime.datetime.today. So normally if you do import datetime, so first this datetime is this one module, then dot datetime. This is class, and today is method. So that is the syntax here. Datetime dot datetime today. That means datetime dot datetime dot today. So we are following this one. Module dot class dot method. Okay, so this is about this one. So similar way, datetime date today. So instead of date time, I want only date. So then I can use this date. So same thing it representing here. If you take datetime dot date dot today, what it returns is only date, because we are calling here only date. That means date means only year, month, and day. So if you use datetime dot date dot today, you only need date. That means it will filter by date. So similar way, if we use datetime dot today, that means it will give you both date and time. So what is date? Year, month, and day. What is time? Hour, minutes, seconds, microseconds. Okay, so you can use it this date time if you need both date and time. And if you see further differentiation, so you can go through this. What it returns is only date in this year, month, date format. And this one, it will give you both date and time. So that is this one. First date is year, month, date, and time is hour, minutes, seconds. So what is data type is date time dot date, and here what is data type is date time dot date time. So here you're telling that it includes time. No. So you are printing only date. So here we are printing yes. Time also we are printing here. So this is the example for date, and this is the example for date and time. So next we'll go for same will represent here date time dot date dot today. So what it does is we defined in variable today. So what it does is in today's date and time, it will take only date. Okay. So that means today is 25 to 4. Okay. So it printing only date, today's date. And on top of that, what I'm doing is 3 days ago. So I want to print 3 days back date. So for that today, that is, it gives you this one today's date. I'm doing minus and date time dot time delta days equal to 3. So that means what will get output for this is 3 days. So earlier we saw here, no? So if you give, suppose here I given 5 days, it giving 5 days and time as 0. So similar way here, it will give you 3 days as the output, and these 3 days will be minused from this date. So that means if you minus, this is fourth, and if you minus 3, you will get 1. Okay, 25 to 1. So similar way, so here I'm using date time. Okay, so today what I will get here, if I try to print, since it is a date time, it will give today's date and time. Okay, so on top of that, what I'm trying to create here is tomorrow's date and yesterday date and after 5 days date. Okay, after 5 days from today. So for tomorrow, what I'm doing, today's date, I'm adding date time dot time delta days equal to 1. So what will get output for this is 1 day. So what is today we are getting this one. For this value, we are adding 1 day. So that means this is fourth. Okay. Since we are adding 1 day, we are getting here 5. Okay. So remaining all same. So only day is changing. And if you see yesterday, for same syntax, I am doing minus. So that means 1 day minus. So here fourth is there. If you do minus, you will get 3. Okay, so that is yesterday's date. And here I'm doing after 5 days from today. So for today date, I'm adding 5 days. So what is today date? That is fourth. If I add 5 days, what I will get? 9. Okay. So this is about this code. Next, as per our syntax, we can enter parameters, multiple parameters under time delta. So here I'm adding more parameters like weeks 1, hours 10, minutes 22, milliseconds 1042. So first what I'm trying to print is interval, that is this one. So what we'll get is, so we have week 1. Week 1 means 7 days, 7 days, and whatever hours is there, hours and minutes, it converted to seconds. Okay, and this is the value. And this is microseconds. So here milliseconds are there, it converting to microseconds. Okay, so that is interval. Next, interval dot days. So that means from this, I want to print only days. Here, what is days is there? 7. So that it printing here. So similar way, interval dot seconds. So here, how many seconds are there? That is printing here. And how many microseconds? That is this one, it printing here. Okay, so next what I'm trying to do is I'm adding time delta to the current date. So for that, what I'm doing, see here I'm using second method. So I'm not doing import time date. Instead of that, I'm using here from date time, import date time comma time delta. So for getting current date and time, what I'm doing, date time dot now. Okay, so since I used this one, so no need to write datetime dot now. Okay, so only this much is enough, datetime dot now. So it will give you the today's date. So suppose if I try to print this one, So first it will print today's date, that is 25 to 15, and this is the time. And on top of that, what I'm doing is I'm storing in one variable delta, that is time delta of 10 days. So that means this output will be 10 days. Okay, so these 10 days I am adding to current date time. Okay, this current date time plus delta. So delta means here 10 days. So my here days are 5. If I add 10 days to it, it will become 15. Okay, 25 to 15. So this is of adding time delta to current date. So similar way, how to subtract time delta from the current date. So same syntax for getting current date, and here I'm mentioning days as 7, and I'll try to print this one also. Today's date. So today's date is 2/5, and it will minus 7 days. So this 5 and 2 more days. Okay. So January's 31st is the last. So 29. If you add 29 plus 7, you'll get this one, February 5. So this is about subtraction. Next, calculate the difference between two dates. So I have one date. So I'm defining date time of this one 24/1/1, and one more date as 24/1/10. So I want to calculate a difference between these two dates. So what I'm doing is date 2 minus day 1. So if I try to print difference, what I'm getting is difference is 9 days. Okay, so here 1 is there, here 10 is there. So 9 days difference will get. If you see here, this difference it giving in this format 9 days, comma time. So difference dot days, difference dot days. So here how many days are there? 9 days. So that we are getting here. So if you can print this one for understanding. See date 1. So date 1 is 24/1/1, and time is zeros because we mentioned only date here. And what is the date 2? 1/10. So 24/1/10, and the time is 0. So if you minus these two, that's we are getting 9 days here. Okay, so this is about calculating the difference between two dates. Next, what we'll do is, so in time delta, how to work with weeks, hours, milliseconds, everything. So before that, I am printing current time. So I'm importing date time and datetime.datetime.now. If you display this variable, you'll get format like this, datetime.datetime, and inside our date and time parameters. And if you try to print this one, you will get only date and time. Okay, so this one I'm storing in variable now. So on top of that, what I'm doing here is time delta. Inside that, I'm defining hours to minutes 30, seconds 45. If I try to print this one, this delta, what it gives is 2 hours, 30 minutes, 45 seconds. So in time format, it is giving. So on top of that, what I'm doing for now, that means for current time, for this particular date and time, I'm adding this delta. That means this time I'm adding. And if you observe, this date will be remain same, and these 2 hours, 2 hours, 30 seconds. And if you see 13 plus 2, 15. Okay, this is 15 and 30 plus 28, 58. And this is 45, 45.65. So 0, no, 45 it is adding and this is remains same. Okay, so this is one way. So how delta time delta will work. And one more way is here I'm taking days as 10 days and hours 3, minutes 20, seconds 45. So what I will get output is 10 days. This 10 days I'm getting, and this time it is converting 3 minutes, 3 hours, 20 minutes, 45. Okay, 3 hours, 20 minutes, 45 seconds. So this TD I'm using here. So here what I'm doing now, that means current time, date and time plus time delta of weeks 1. That means today's date is, that is this one. Now if you see here, this one, 25 to 4. 25 to 4. For that, I'm adding week 1. That means 7 days. That means 4 plus 7, 11. You will get 11 here. 25 to 11. So similar way, if you do minus 7 days, for this is 4, no? If you do minus 4, these 4 days, and in January month, 3 days. So 28 you will get. So January month 28. If you do minus 7 days. So similar way, I want to apply time delta for days. So here we saw weeks. Here I'm doing for days. So for current time, I'm adding 3 days. And here for current time, I'm minusing 3 days. So if I take a screenshot of today's date, and if you see here what we are doing now, days. So here days 3, we are adding 3 days. That means here 4 is there, it will become 7. See here 7. And if you do minus 3, it will become 1 to 1. Okay, and that is this one. And on top of that, what we are doing is 365 days. So current day is 4 and I'm adding days 365 days. So 365 days means 1 year. So what will happen? This one 2025, 2025 will become 2026. So that is this one. So after adding 365 days, similar way, after minusing 365 days, after minusing 365 exactly won't come, you have to do 366. So what will come is it will less 1 year from 2025, it will do minus 1 year. So that means 2024. Okay, so next we'll go for hours. So for today's date, I'm adding 3 hours. So here hours is this one, 13. Okay, so for 13, I'm adding 3 hours. And 13 what it becomes? 13, 3 hours. So just a minute, let me check this one. Yeah, so there, since we used to today, we had to consider this one. So I took screenshot of this. Now we'll verify. hours we are talking now, so hours here. So if we are adding 3 hours to this, see 2025 to 5. So that is current time. So here time is not adding. Okay, today time delta hours 3 hours, and here it giving you only. Okay, so since here I mentioned only date, it giving only this one. So let me correct this. So there are two things I mentioned with the same variable today. So one I mentioned datetime.date.today, and one more I mentioned datetime.datetime.today. So for this scenario, for hours, I need to consider this one, datetime.datetime.today. So what it gives is, it will give you both date and time. So what it does is, now to this, it will add 3 hours. So here now what is the hours? 18. This hours is 18. So if you add 3 hours, it will become 21. So similar way, if you minus these 3 hours, if you see here 18 is there, no? If you minus 3 hours, it will become 15 hours. Okay, so and if you observe here, no, weeks, days, everywhere I mentioned now. So only for hours I mentioned today. So for minutes again I mentioned now. So before minutes, I will take milliseconds, microseconds, because for today's screenshot I took here. So for milliseconds, what I'm doing, today plus datetime dot time delta. Here I am giving microseconds 10. If you see here, this is microseconds 031 955. If I try to update this one, if you see here, this everything is same 031 031 965. So we are adding 10 seconds now. So instead of 955, it become 965. So similarly, if you minus 10 microseconds, this 955 will become 945. Okay, so now remaining two, I considered with now. So I'll take screenshot of now again. So we'll check now remaining two, that is one is minutes. So in minutes, what I'm doing, first I'm adding 10 minutes, and yeah. So this is my, let me check, this might have changed. Yeah, so let me take fresh screenshot. Minutes. Okay, so I'm adding 10 minutes and minusing 10 minutes. So if you see from this, 14 is the minutes, and if you add 10, it will become 24. That is 24. And if you do minus 10, it will become 4. This 0.4. So similar way, if you go for milliseconds, if I try to run one more time, and if you compare this milliseconds, so hour, minute, second, millisecond. So here, what I'm doing, I'm adding 3 milliseconds. So 18, 14, 4, 77, 77, 63, 6375. Okay, so here I given both plus. Okay, so now if you check this one, 3 milliseconds. So what it doing instead of 6 here, no, it adding 3, so 9. And if you do minus 3 seconds, milliseconds, this 6 becoming 3 here. Okay, so next, what we'll do is, if you see whatever we discussed earlier, so for same scenario, there is one more example. Like, so I'm importing this, we already imported this. And here what I'm doing is datetime.now, that means current date and time. I'm doing minus, for doing minus, I'm mentioning here time delta. Inside that I'm mentioning days. Okay, so earlier everything I did hard coded, like 5 days, 1 days like that. So I wanted to do dynamic way. So for doing dynamic way, so what I'm doing is random dot rand integer 0 to 365 start value and end value. That means between 0 to 365 days, between 0 to 365 days, it can pick randomly any day. Okay. So what it will does is, see here, current date minus days I given random dot randint 0 365. See, initially it given some day. Okay, so days, if try to update this one. Yeah, so this is the date and time it is giving. So why it is giving 24? Because today date is 2025 and second month and fifth. Today is fifth. But here we are minusing with some days. How many days? So that we don't know because it randomly picking some number between 0 to 365. See, that's why here it giving 10th month and day is 29. So because we don't know between 0 to 365 which day it's selected. Now see, 1029 is here, no? If I run one more time, this will change. See, 323. So that means based on this random number, this date will get changed. So here what it giving in the form of date time dot date time. Inside that it giving date and time. So now what I'm doing is this one I'm converting to timestamp. So on top of this I'm giving dot timestamp. So what it does is this date and time, it will convert into timestamp value in milliseconds. So this, since it is giving decimal values, I'm converting to integer value. So that is this one. So if you see some data sets, you will observe these numbers. So this is actually timestamp value in milliseconds. So you can use in Google Converter, convert from milliseconds to timestamp. So if you enter this value, it will give you this date. Okay, so next, how to use function for time delta. So I'm creating one function, add days. So this I given function name and inside that I given days. So here I'm defining today's date in one variable and for delta I'm defining time delta days equal to days. What I want to return is I want to add both today's date and time delta value. So if I call this function, I'm calling this function and I'm entering here 15 days. So what it does is for today's date, it will add days how many? 15 days it will add. If I try to run this, today date is February 5th. Okay, so for fifth, it adding 15 days. So that's why it giving 20. So like this, different ways you can use it, time delta function to manipulate the existing date and time format. So that's all about this video. If you really like this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you.